program may be pre-recorded.
The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now,
Friday Liveage. Welcome to The Word on Wealth. My friends, I'm so happy that you are along with us today. This is the day when we get to learn all about wealth that does not have a dollar sign in front of it. I have a really good friend of mine that is on the line with us. She's calling from South Ogden, Utah. And Lisa is a very good friend of mine. In fact, she is my sister-in-law. And she is a life coach, which means she has this training on how to help people just kind of get through life. And when you get, that sounds like, okay, life coach, what does that mean? It is really this in-depth training. Basically, every time I'm with Lisa, I pick her brain and I ask her questions about, how does this work? What do you think about this? I'll tell you one thing that Lisa is incredible at doing is the materials that she puts together from her research and from her studies in dealing with clients is phenomenal. It's well drafted, it's beautiful, and we have some of that we are giving away today. Okay, what you have to do to get Lisa's materials is you can hang on to my number 855-500-TRUST. Sorry, 855-500-TRUST. Remember the number. I will tell you what you get when how you call in and get that information. So we have been having these discussions on how to deal with difficult situations. That's been kind of my theme of our Friday show. Monday through Thursday, we're doing money stuff, financial stuff, wealth management, estate planning, trust administration, probate, all that. And then on Fridays, we talk about wealth in our own heads, okay, our mental wealth. And what Lisa dubbed it as early on, I had her as one of my very, very first guests. Thank you, Lisa, for helping me break the ice on that, is she said, I would call your show a wealth of joy. So today is the Wealth of Joy with Lisa Newman. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary. It's always good to be with you. I love these conversations.
You've done so much with your research and with your clients to learn about this, about, helping people through tough situations. I always enjoy, and I'm very appreciative when I get the privilege of having you on the air with us. Lisa, there has been, with the election cycle, I always get a little bit, we hear about, okay, the election cycle is starting, it's midterm elections. And like a year ago, I always know that means there's going to be a lot of strife and a lot of stuff going on. And there's going to be a lot more stuff being crammed in my mailbox and my email. And now my text messages, from all these different positions and parties and do this and don't do that. And, of course, there's the ugly side of it where it's like, this person is a crook. And then, they have some picture of him or her in, making some gesture that's not even really what it is, but it's kind of been, cut out of a, of a movie. I don't know. But there's so much going on that I find that just kind of the resting heart rate level, if you will, of the general public, my clients as well, it just gets higher and higher and higher when it's coming up on an election cycle, when it's time to elect. So I thought, I need to talk to somebody who's a professional about getting, how to deal with all this exposure to news and drama and frivolous stuff, and how to kind of focus our minds and hearts on what we really should be focusing on. I wanted to address that with you today. So there's a couple points that you had made. You talk to us about that, about your, kind of the idea of news exposure, overexposure, limitations. Talk to us about that.
Well, Gary, I think one of the things that I think about when you pose this topic to me, there's a whole bunch of different things we could talk about. But the first thing that came to my mind is, wouldn't it be nice if we could just eliminate our exposure to all that negativity and all the politics? And wouldn't it be nice? And you know what? You can. But you have to live off grid. And I don't know that that's really an option for most of us. And I certainly don't want to do that. I want to be with other people. Mm-hmm. And so we have to accept the fact that some of this is going to come to us naturally, whether just living in society and being a social person and that kind of thing. But we can also limit. And there's so much more that we can do about that than we realize at times. And sometimes it's good. And I ask my clients to stop and evaluate, where are these negative influences coming in? Are you listening to the radio when you drive and it's negative there? The TV shows, are you watching too much news? Are you scrolling the internet too much? And sometimes it's good to just do a little self-evaluation on where these influences are coming from and where you can eliminate those influences. They say you are what you eat, and I think your mind is what you think and what you absorb and what you see and what you hear and what you do. So that is my first recommendation, is to limit your exposure as much as possible to these things.
I had a mentor of mine, Darren Hardy, was years ago, and he was talking about, the overexposure to media and the news cycle that just kind of repeats itself over and over again. And his suggestion was he stopped listening. He got rid of his newspaper subscription, magazine subscriptions, stopped listening to the news, stopped listening to the radio, and then just subscribed to certain feeds and podcasts that he knew would be kind of representing his values, and that's where he got his news from. And ever since,
like I was
then,
talking about, Gary, with Darcy, one of the things I think a lot of people do, they just have that news app right there on their phone, and they get the notification. They're just kind of unwillingly sucked in. I've done it. Delete it off your phone. It makes a world of difference.
And I think, and that's a really good point, Noah, and I'd love to hear Lisa's take on that. I talk to people about that, and they go, but if I turn off my notifications, I'm not going to know what's going on. And there's this funny perception, like if I don't get a ding on my phone of some important news, that I'm going to lose out on something. I'm going to miss out. We have this crazy fear of missing out thing. I'd love to have your comment on that, Lisa, about, why don't people just turn off their notifications?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one that I would like to talk about is, which I talk about almost every time I talk with you, is understanding how your brain is wired helps you to understand your behavior, and understanding that your brain is wired to scan for danger and to protect you. That's your brain's job at the base level of your brain. The base, the most primitive level of your brain is to keep you alive. And so since we don't have lions and tigers and bears to fight so much in our society right now, our brains scan for other things that are potentially dangerous. And, the news is often very sensational, often very, the most severe things, the most tragic things, the most extreme things are
2 minutes.
And something in our brain is just attracted to that kind of thing. And even though it's not always healthy for us, and yes, there might be some things that we do need to be aware of. And so totally cutting off the news isn't necessarily a recommendation, but monitoring how much, and not allowing yourself, when you find that blood pressure rising, or your emotions getting intense or indignant, oh, I can't believe this happened, this is so awful. I have to, when that happens with me, I have to stop. And even though my curiosity, another part of my brain, just wants to be satisfied, sometimes I'll be reading an article or listening to a story, and my curiosity wants to take it to the end, but I know that it's not taking me in a good place emotionally or mentally. And you practice turning that off in the middle and just saying, what, that's not, which is my second point we'll get to in a minute, is values. What are my values? That doesn't align with my values right now. And I have the courage to step away from it.
1 minute.
And choose something else that does align with my values.
And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to getting into that with you a little bit, Lisa. We have Lisa Newman. She's a life coach. She's my sister-in-law. I love talking. Every time I'm with her, I feel buoyed up and encouraged that things are better than you think, and better than they seem. And so today we're talking about dealing with, the news media cycle and all the stuff that we have kind of bombarding us, and how do we control that and focus on really what's important. Coming up, what we're going to be talking about is like what are your core values and how to focus on that. Now, this stuff takes effort. Those of you who are listening to my show last week, we talked to Kip Harris, and his whole thing was it's really looking for joy and looking for things. It requires effort. That's a common theme here. The things we need to do requires effort. We're with Lisa Newman here on the Word on Wealth Radio. If you want to get a hold of me directly, it's 855-500-TRUST. Coming up next, we're going to talk about core values and understanding them here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com. You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends
Real quick, while we're on a break, you'll love this. I'm going to bring
Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law 855-500-TRUST or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com 855-500-TRUST.
So good to have you along. Happy Friday, everybody. We are on Feel Good Friday. We're talking with Lisa Newman, who is a life coach who has dubbed this show a wealth of joy. We're talking about the joy in your brain and your mental wealth, your mental health. So happy to have Lisa along doing that. We've been talking about dealing with so much news and drama and frivolous stuff that gets us, it gets us misfocused. That's when you get anxiety for the future, depression over the past. And we're talking about fighting that and ideas in our chat with Lisa today on how to get past that. We're talking specifically now about understanding and identifying core values. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about, understanding core values. And then I want to make sure that we get into our Healthy Christlike Boundaries book, worksheet that we're willing to provide to our listeners. So let's talk about core values.
Okay. So you want to be a little bit brief on this one then. So it really doesn't take too long, but I think what this topic is so important for our inner peace and happiness is to identify what really matters most to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us have a lot of things that matter to us and that we want to have happen. But sometimes when we have two values that are in conflict, we can be a little bit frustrated and not know what to do. And so when you sit down and you actually take time to identify your core values and what matters most to you, it's really insightful and can help guide you. I could send this to you as well. And people, listeners out there, you can find core value exercises online. All it is basically, a list of all these different values, and then you go through and you identify, the ones that matter to you. And I've got a list here. I haven't counted. It's probably about 60 or 70 different words.
Yes.
That's my list that I came up with of values. And so I have my clients go through and just highlight, first I'll just put a check mark by everyone that matters to them. And then they have to go back and they have to limit that to 10 or narrow it to 10, or maybe it's 15 first. Maybe it's 15 first. Yeah, 15 first. Then they have to narrow that down to 10 and then to 5. And it's really hard, but it does make you think, and it does make you self-evaluate and think about why, sometimes it seems odd or kind of wrong to take something off your list that really matters to you. But when you stop and think, well, this one is more important to me, then it really gets to the heart of who you are. And this isn't necessarily that, these are all good things. These values are all good. It's just what matters most to me, and how can I streamline my life so that when I have these situations come, when the world is pressing down on me, when the environment is negative, when these things are really causing me stress, I know what my values are. I know what matters most to me. And if the things I am seeing or experiencing or choosing or watching don't align with those core values, I'm going to have some internal strife and internal instability. And to get focused back on bringing things into my life that really harness those values and promote those values is going to bring a lot more peace and a lot more stability.
Okay, love that. So core values is important, and it is definitely, it's difficult to get down to just your main 5 core values, but it's really important because you start to realize that everything is focused around them. So I love that part. So Lisa, then if we understand our core values, then with that, so what are we doing then? We're identifying, okay, I'm listening to, this is something over here and I'm distracted by it. Does this kind of forward or represent me in my core values? And so as a result, you say, look, that's just not something I need to focus on, and you move on to something else. Is that kind of how that works? That's
exactly it, Gary. You've got that right.
Okay. And I just think we just don't do that a lot. I mean, if as right. Christians, it's a little easier because you do have like the core Christian values that are taught, in general Christianity. But I think we get more specific, even more specific than that. This exercise, I think, is becoming more and more difficult for people as they kind of pull away from churches and religion, because then there's what's the central focus is, because I believe in the goodness of the ether, it's really harder to find your core values. And so I think this kind of exercise is really, really worthy of doing that. So let's go on as far as like setting boundaries. We've talked about that a little bit. In your own mind, you're trying to say, is this healthy for me? Should I be thinking in this direction? That doesn't fit with my core value. But I want to talk about that a little bit with how do I set boundaries with others, and how do I set them like within my own mind? I mean, just kind of some how-tos on that.
Okay, Gary, this is something that it's a constant work in progress for me, and a good thing for me to talk about it over and over again with clients, because it helps me out as well. And I think the boundaries come in is when you do have a couple of your values that are in conflict, and you can't please them both. So there are times when you're just emotionally exhausted, or you're having a hard day, and someone calls you and wants you to help them with something, and you just don't have the energy for it, and mentally, emotionally, physically. And you've got that value. I need to serve others. I want to serve others, but I also need to be at a place where I can do that from a place of love and not a place of resentment. And we have that in, those conflicting values, and understanding and realizing that healthy, I like to call them healthy Christ-like boundaries, doing boundaries the way Christ did, since we are Christian here. If we do them his way, then it's actually healthy and empowering for both of us. And, I take a lot of this from a really good book that any of your listeners haven't heard of it or would like to read it. It's excellent. It's called Boundaries. It's by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. It's been around for a while. It's a bestseller and Christian-based. It calls upon biblical principles as they teach all of this. And that's what I loved about it, is because it helped me to see that because I do desire so much to follow Jesus Christ, that understanding how he set boundaries around people and about what, he really did decide, and he set the limits on who he would serve, when he would serve, and how he would serve. he was not out there willy-nilly helping anybody who came up to him and asked him or pressured him or needed him even. I think in the Bible, we hear of all of the wonderful things that he did to heal people and the miraculous, the compassion and the love, and it certainly was there. But have you stopped to think that there were probably people he walked past who could have used that help as well, that he did not heal or he did not stop to serve? Because everybody has needs. And so even Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, even he set limits and set parameters around who, when, and how he would serve. And we are the same way. We have limited energy, limited time, limited emotional bandwidth, so to speak, and using it wisely is a healthy thing to do.
I love that.
So any questions before I move on?
No, I think that's good. And I don't know how much time you can spend on this. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know with the Healthy Christ-like Boundaries booklet that you have, it's a little 7-page workbook that you put together for us, for your clients, and that we're going to share. If you do want to get your hands on that, I think what I need you to do is go to my website, and there's a contact us form. My website is gqlaw.com, GQLAW, like Gary Quackenbush Law.com. And there's a contact us. Just put in there that you want the Christ-like Boundaries worksheet. Just put in there that way I'll have your email and I'll be able to get it to you. So do that through our contact us form on the website, which is gqlaw.com. All right.
Gary, maybe what I could do right now. Oh, do we have time just for a couple of things?
Of course.
Okay, I just think maybe what I could do for the listeners, in case they're wondering if this might be a good fit for them, if this is a workbook they'd be interested in or not, I can kind of give you the different parts of this that are covered in this workbook.
Great.
Basically, it's all about setting boundaries, is about honoring the stewardship God gave us over our own souls. So we have a stewardship over ourselves, and we'll be accountable to God for how we handle our choices and the things we do here on earth. And this is about accomplishing that. And part one is about helping you recognize signs that you need boundaries, and kind of a guideline there. Then we go into biblical boundary laws, where there are different laws that Christ teaches and scriptural references to back each one up, such as sowing and reaping, responsibility, power, respect, motivation, hurt versus harm, proactivity, and exposure, and how all of those laws are laws that are healthy to keep, and what they mean and how we can do that. Then there's a section on the ways Jesus followed these and how he set boundaries, so you can get some many biblical references to how he actually implemented these. And in part 3, we go into guidelines for creating boundaries, so you have a framework to follow as you're thinking about how to do that in your life. And then parts 4 and 5 are brainstorming some boundaries that you might need to make and how you could do it, and then evaluating what happened. So I know with me, I'll get great ideas and implement it. And sometimes I have to go back over and over again and evaluate and see, okay, how could I tweak this? And so just a little process there. Mm-hmm. And then in implementing the boundary, that's part 6 as well. And then one of the best parts of this book that I like, the workbook, is part 7, which is boundary maintenance and how to maintain those boundaries. Because sometimes it's really easy to think about what you need to do, but there will always be obstacles. There's opposition that will come, such as pushback or limit testing, or people will ignore you, or they'll question you, or they'll be defensive, or they'll just ghost you, and these kinds of things. And what you can do to manage those responses that you might get from setting these healthy Christ-like boundaries, so that you can stay within a healthy place emotionally and in your relationships.
Right, that's great. I love that part. It is a really good guide, and it's set up as a workbook. It's cool. There's things that you fill in, you work through. Lisa's put a lot of thought and energy into it, and works this with her clients. And she told me she's willing to have me share it. If you go to the website, gqlaw.com, there's a contact us portion to say that you'd like the Healthy Boundaries worksheet. Just identify it. It's not like it's going to send it to you mechanically. We will send it to you, because we'll get your email address from the form, and you can go and put that in there and get your Healthy Christ-like Boundaries packet. And I think that's, it's fun to do. I think it's really important. And, we are talking today specifically here on the Word on Wealth about, basically controlling what we're thinking and trying to help help us kind of have it a little easier by not having so much crazy stuff in our environment. And that requires setting boundaries. And that's one of the things that Lisa's providing for us today. Now, Lisa, I don't know if you can stand for a couple more minutes after we take a break, or Got to get going.
Yeah, I can. If
Okay.
you've got more you want to hear, then
Oh my
I
gosh,
can
I have
talk.
so much more. So what we're going to do is
Okay.
the way we're going to do this is we still have about a minute and a half, and then Lisa and I are going to shift into specifically about actually setting boundaries. We have her booklet, her workbook, 7 pages that she's provided to me. I have it in a PDF format. If you go to my website, gqlaw.com, and there's a contact us form. It's really easy. Put in your name and email address, and that way we will be able to get that packet to you. Just contact us, and it says, you know, basically, what do you want? Just say, I want the boundaries workbook, and we will send that to you just by going to GQ Law in the contact us form. What we are going to be discussing with Lisa Newman, who is a life coach. She's my sister-in-law. She's a wonderful person. I wish you could be, you know, in the same room with her. She lights up the room. She helps you have the energy, and she's really I don't know, she's kind of a force of nature that we love so much to have Lisa, and she's going to be on our show. Well, it's all true. It's all true. And what we're going to do is we are going to talk about those boundaries when we get back. So during this next minute or so, have a little break, and we get back, we're going to talk about setting boundaries, you know, how to do it, what are they like, what are these Christ-like boundaries, and all this is to make our lives better here on The Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush. If you want to get a hold of me directly, my number is 888-344-1170. I'm sorry, that's the radio number. It's 855-500-TRUST, 855-500-TRUST, and we can help you with your trust. This is Gary Quackenbush. We'll be right back.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
With SRN.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
You're live.
All right. Welcome to The Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush and Lisa Newman, life coach. She's part of our show today, and she's agreed to stay on for a couple more minutes. We're going to spend about 10 more minutes with Lisa. We've got a lot of information to go over. So Lisa, let's talk about a really quick review. We're talking about how to, other than living off the grid by yourself in the middle of nowhere, we're going to be exposed to news, drama, frivolous stuff, a lot of input, more than we've ever experienced, but less than we will experience in the future, because there's just so much. So it's really important, I think, at this point, to kind of get a grip on your input and the stuff that's coming into your brain. We've been talking about setting boundaries after we do a core value exercise to determine what is in alignment with our core values. I wanted to make one suggestion to our listeners. When I did that core value exercise, because you had Cheryl and I do it, and that was a lot of fun. One of the things that I try to do is every year when I have a journal, I have 3 of them that I keep, and I come up with like a theme for the year, and it's kind of like the core value I want to try and focus on. It's, kind of like my theme for the year, and that's what I look for when I do my journal entries. And I'm thinking, I write everything down in my journal. It's like when I do the core values exercise, when I figure out what they are, that's what I would be transferring on January 1st. Of my journal, that's what I'm going to be transferring as my core values. So I have my little list and I can remember them. And what I will do, I think, in this year is I'm going to figure out which of my deepest core values I can kind of use as more of a summary and put that as the title to my journal. Because my journal this year is titled Son of God, because I wanted to really always focus on that I am a son of God. And that means so much, because it's like, that's going to dictate my behavior, how I should respond to things, how I should act when I'm with people, who I should be praying to. And, so that was, I just kind of was thinking that while you're saying core values, I thought, where are you going to record those? Because we talk about doing a lot of things, but where do you record them? And I believe that it's a good idea for anybody, and you listeners and friends of mine, is put that in your journal. If you don't do a journal entry every day, whatever, it doesn't, if you don't do a journal, you do it twice a year, just make some journal entry. There's notes apps that you have, text it yourself or whatever. You're just kind of keeping a log of some of the stuff that's going on in your mind. And I think that's an interesting idea. So let's talk about. I
love that, Gary.
You like that? Good.
Oh, I did. In fact, I was just thinking if I could ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you think that your identifying and focusing on that core value this year has helped you to avoid the negativity and the fluff and the pressures around in the world? How has that helped you?
Well, I think because it helps me focus, because it tells me who I am. It's kind of my identifying feature, that I recognize that I'm not a child of the ether, of the ethos of some, conceptual vapor or whatever. I am actually a son of God. And recognizing that means I have a father. I've always been responsive to father figures like your dad and my dad. I've always been, it's always made a difference to me. It's meant a lot to recognize that I am their, son-in-law, son, that I'm a child of God, I'm a son of God. And it's helped me understand, 1, I'm a man, 2, I have to be responsible as a son of God, as a child of God. And that way I have to treat other people the same way. So it's helped me focus and kind of like, I don't need that. That's not important to me. Gas prices are going up. I'm not going to go freak out about it. If I'm going to do something about it, I'm going to do something, but I try to not listen to or care about things that I cannot change, because it's like the poem that God grant me the serenity, God grant me the serenity to know the things that I can change, and, change things, recognize what can I change? What can I not change? Know the difference, and just like forget about the things I can't touch. So I think the Son of God has really helped me kind of focus on that. It's like who I am as a person, as an individual. And I think that kind of helps me align my core values kind of beneath that.
That is awesome. I think we've got just listeners out there, living proof that this works. Because Gary, just right there, he identified a core value. It guided his decision making. It helped him set boundaries on what he would and would not do. And that helped limit the influences in the world that are negative on him. So thank you, Gary, for being an unintentional but very good example. Thank
you. I appreciate that. And the thing is, I keep a journal in a program called Evernote. And basically the journal, the title is 2022 Son of God. So I see it like every day. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I take, so it just helps. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like a bumper sticker. You put a bumper sticker on, and people do that because it reminds them who they are, I think. I mean, it's, or to tell other people who they are. Anyway, very cool. I think, okay, I do want to jump into this because you and I can talk for hours, but we don't have hours. I want to
That's true.
talk about the boundary maintenance, because I think we've got the idea of boundaries. We have to really be willing to say, you know what? I don't want to do that. And saying no is a big boundary for me. Saying no for me is really, really difficult. And my wife Cheryl's helped me out with that a lot. You know, kind of the idea of let me get back to you on that. Hey, Gary, can you do this? Can you do that? Let me get back to you on that. Let me check with Cheryl. Let me look at my calendar. And that gives me this,
Right.
because my immediate reaction is, oh my gosh, of course I'm going to help you out with that. But then if I go and look and I go, oh, wow, I already did that to 4 people today at the same hour, I probably will be able to like do 4 of them, not 8. So talk about boundary maintenance for us. Help us with a few pointers.
Okay, first of all, I want to point out something, that boundaries are not walls, they're fences with gates. It's you decide the good, that you want to keep the good in and the bad out, whatever that happens to be, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually. And you're the one that's in charge of that gate. And like with you saying that you really want all that good that comes from serving others and helping others. And so you want that gate open to help people. But if too many people are let into your yard or your emotional space or your physical space, you're not going to be able to help them the way you want to. And so that's just, I think that's a good way to look at it. But boundary maintenance, a lot of times it's going to be hard, especially if you're a person who is used to having very loose boundaries, and people pick up on that and they like that because they know that, hey, so-and-so will always say yes. And even though they don't really realize how that's extending, you are responsible for how much you let into your life. So you're going to get a couple of things. One of the things you're going to get is a pushback, which is open resistance to a boundary because they're afraid of change, moving out of their comfort zone, or losing the benefit of you not having a boundary. Because you're not having boundaries can often help benefit other people and make life easier for them. But in examples of this, when someone might say to you, "But you always did this in the past," or "I don't think I can do what you asked, but that's not fair to me." When you ask them, if you ask them to do something, they'll say, "Well, I can't do that." So how you can respond is you acknowledge what their concern is, but you restate your boundary without getting sucked into a debate. And in this workbook, we talk a little bit, I'll just briefly mention that when you do set a boundary with someone, you just briefly say, I only help, I only serve people, or I only, Saturday afternoons are my time to do my charity work, or whatever it is, whatever that boundary is, or I only babysit, I have Tuesday evenings open to babysit, and that's my only night I can do that. And if they say, well, why can't you do Thursday? What if we did this? What if we did that? And get you into a verbal argument, it can be a little bit less, it can kind of water it down. And so being firm in what your boundary is, and not feeling like you have to over explain, because your limits are your limits. Christ didn't have to explain his limits. We don't have to explain ours. So that is one that you'll probably come across as you're setting a boundary, is you're going to get some pushback. And that doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It just means that people aren't used to it yet, but they will get used to it.
Okay. I like that. So let's see. Yeah. So somebody responds, they go, wait a minute, what? That's not fair to me. And you say, well, I understand. I understand. I always say life is not fair. It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
About 2 minutes.
But it's like, I'm sorry, that's not fair. That's just, that's a boundary that I've set. I understand you're concerned. I can't do this Monday through Thursday, or Thursday nights. That's just not something that's available. The thing, Lisa, we've had other, professionals on this show that have had really similar things. They say, specifically boundaries are really important because, some people, if they don't want to respect your boundaries, that's really kind of rude, and they can't really be helpful to you, and you can't be helpful to them. And it's a matter of kind of working together. And it's the bottom line is, if somebody really wants you to do something and you can't do it, they're not going to stop at that. They're going to get it done some other way. So it's not like, if you were not here tomorrow and somebody, was trying to challenge your boundary and you just weren't going to be here, just physically not available, they're not going to, it's not going to be like they're not going to expire. It's a matter of they will find another way. So it is hard to make boundaries, but I like that one. You talk a little bit about
other people.
Yes, that's so true.
Now, a minute.
They're people to trust that they can solve their problems. You don't have to solve everybody's problem.
Yeah. And I like that. And that's true.
That.
And I know you and I have had that conversation before about, you like to solve people's problems. And that's me. I mean, it's what I do for a living is I solve problems, but I feel like I do anyway. I mean, that's my job, and people to pay me to help them with their
Right.
problems. And but then there's so many situations where that's just not right. It's not our obligation to solve everybody's problems. And if we start doing that, then it can get really tricky, because then we don't have enough time to help anybody. And we just get so stressed out about it. And then we're like, oh, I didn't serve enough. And so now I'm depressed because I didn't help out enough. But I think boundaries are important, and I appreciate you helping us with that. Lisa, we so much love you and appreciate the time that you spend with our listeners. I want to extend one more time. If you guys want this Healthy Christ-like Boundaries worksheet, go to my website, gqlaw.com, and ask for it in the Contact Us form, and I will get it to you. Thank you so much, Lisa. You take care. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a great weekend, Gary.
Bye-bye. Be right back.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people, because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there and filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Thank you for being here with us today, friends, on the Word on Wealth. Happy Friday. We are on a Feel Good Friday. We just had a wonderful session with life coach Lisa Newman. She has offered to have me provide to you for free her Healthy Christ-like Boundaries guide. It's a 7-page workbook that you can use to help set boundaries. And whether you want to do it Christ-like or not, the booklet is helpful to help you set boundaries. The idea is that we need to set up those fences, the fences with gates. We're not talking about 30-foot walls with razor wire. We're trying to figure and make sure that we have our own boundaries and that we can control our own environment and not feel like you're out of control. The boundaries workbook is easy to get. Go to gqlaw.com. Go to the form that says contact us and just say, send me the boundaries workbook, please. And that'll give us your name and your email address, and we will send it out to you right away so you can work with it. I the suggestions that I have come up with that just in dealing with our professionals over, the last year, the mental health professionals that we've had come on this radio show on Friday, we've had so much great advice given to them. About 3 weeks ago on the show, Noah and I went through a summary of the guests that we've had and kind of the things that they talked about and the suggestions that they had. I wanted to just talk about what I believe is important, and that is organizing your life. My career is around helping people organize their lives. If you've ever had a friend pass away, which most of us have, there's a big difference in people's lives on what happens at the end and whether the person was organized or unorganized, disorganized. And what I'm finding so much in my career is that those that have kind of set their lives up to where they're organized and they have contingency plans, those are the ones where it's easier to deal with things after someone passes away. I hear quite a bit from people. They say, well, whatever, it won't matter to me. I'll be dead. And the challenge with that is when you pass away, remember that right before you passed away, you were managing your own affairs. Okay. Unless you have dementia and somebody else is doing it for you. But for most of us, you're managing your own affairs. So that means if you have a home, you're maintaining it yourself, or you've got people maintaining it, but you've got it set up. Somebody's doing your tax return preparation, somebody's running your finances, or your investments, and somebody's, mowing your lawns, or you're doing it. And so you've got this world that you've set up where you are the person that's running and maintaining it. When you die, that immediately gets passed on to someone else. It might be a spouse, or it might be your successor trustee or your executor in your estate plan. Well, keep in mind that when that person now is taking over that responsibility because you've passed away and it's gone on to them, they already have a life. They've already got things going on. And I know it's like, well, but they're getting my money, so they should be happy. Well, they are grateful and they're very happy about that opportunity, but there's a lot of work in the meantime. If your stuff is organized, if you have a living trust, if you have your will set up, you have your healthcare power of attorneys, your financial power of attorneys, if all that stuff is set up and organized ahead of time, it makes a world of difference. It makes a world of difference in that your survivors who are dealing with your, what you left here can have their life go a little bit better and more organized. I really like organization. I like organized life. I was looking at back one, there's a financial expert that a lot of people have heard of, and that's Dave Ramsey. He's a very famous guy. He's always talking about your money and managing money and stuff like that. And when you read David's material on even people that are very, early on in their marriage, or young people, he always says, you need to put money away for retirement. You need to get rid of your debt. So what he does is he says, if let's take a married couple, you're married, the first thing you need to do is put away $1,000, whatever that takes. Come up with a plan, with a budget, whether you have debt or not, doesn't matter. Put $1,000 in a bank account that you will never touch. You promise that is for a strict emergency, not for a rainy day, but a real emergency. You put $1,000 away. Next, you work on a debt reduction plan. Figure out how you're going to get rid of your debt over what period of time. And then work on your retirement, because getting out of debt gets you into a position where you can now, instead of having negative cash flow because you're pouring money into debt and debt servicing and interest, now you're putting into a retirement, which is now earning you interest. So he talks about things, and it's very, very organized. One of the other things he says is you need to have a will or an estate plan. Okay. Now a will can be part of an estate plan. In California specifically, you're going to hear people like Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, Anthony Wright, Marty Schneider. They all sing the same song about getting your estate organized financially and with documents like a living trust, a will, healthcare power of attorneys, financial power of attorneys, deed to your house, moving it into your trust. And that organization makes it so that your loved ones, your survivors, will have an easier time moving into the shoes that you filled and transferring the property to where it needs to be. It might be to a spouse, it might be to kids, some combination. We talked yesterday about blended families. And if you have a blended family, it's really important to make sure that your trust and your estate plan can deal with that situation. Because if the husband and the wife have different children from prior marriages or relationships, then those children are going to be dealt with differently legally. When you're both gone, when you've both died, there's no legal relationship between your children. There's no legal relationship between your spouse and your former spouse and your children, because she or he is not the parent of your children. Okay. So a lot of this stuff, this organization, sometimes it gets to where you have to think a little bit more. But the basics, think about the Dave Ramsey theory is put away $1,000. Okay. The basic theory is to get started with something. My basic theory, and the thing that I've been preaching since day one, is get something in place. If you need a very complicated, complex estate plan because you want to set up, education foundations and money going off into perpetuity and all that, that can be done. But it always starts out with the basics. Don't worry about this huge, big, platinum plated, super fancy estate plan. It's no good if it's never done. So get something going. It's fairly straightforward. It's easier than you think. It takes less time than you think. It costs less money than most people think to set up a basic estate plan with a will, living trust, power of attorneys, deeding the house to the trust. If you own a house, if you have children, if you have money in retirement, those are the things that trigger your need to have an estate plan, a living trust. Okay. If you have real estate that's worth more than $65,000 in California, you're going to need a trust. If you have children, you're going to need a trust. If you're going to have, all of your assets all combined, everything, the value exceeds $184,000, you're going to need a living trust, because those are the limitations on probate. If you have more than that, it goes through probate, which we try to avoid. Probate is slow, expensive, and avoidable. Okay. How do you do it? Easy. My number, 855-500-TRUST. If you don't have your favorite estate planner, estate planning attorney, if you don't have an estate plan, or if you want it modified, fixed, checked, reviewed to see if it's okay, I can do that. 855-500-TRUST. Let me put my 34 years of experience as an attorney, as an estate planning attorney, helping hundreds of clients, doing trust administration, doing distribution after someone dies, all that stuff we've been doing for so many years. I know how this stuff works. I can help you. 855-500-TRUST. We are coming up on Thanksgiving and we're coming up on Christmas. And as that happens, there's, you've got your checklist of the things you need to do. One of them, is your estate plan. Get it done. We can still get them done. Like it's tight, but usually we can get it done before Thanksgiving if you get it done like really, really fast. But normally we're about a 2-week turnaround on a complete estate plan, top to bottom, just what you want, about a 2-week turnaround. So don't wait too long. Don't wait any longer. Call 855-500-TRUST and get it done. If you want my free books, go to my website. So a couple reasons to go to my website, gqlaw.com, GQ like Gary Quackenbush Law, gqlaw.com. My firm sponsors this show. Go to gqlaw.com. You can get my free book on living trust basics. You can get my free questionnaire on guardianship. You can watch my videos on guardianship designation, on estate planning. And for today, go to that contact form and put in there that you want the Boundaries workbook. Boundaries workbook, and my team will send you the Boundaries workbook that was created by life coach Lisa Newman. It was great having Lisa on, and she's been a regular guest of the show. We've had her on quite a bit. So if you want to re-listen to this podcast or as a podcast, it is on our podcast. You can go to any podcast platform and look for The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. So The Word on Wealth, if you don't see my face, it's not me, The Word on Wealth, and you can find the one from today, and Lisa will be on it. That's 11/11/22. So look that up. You can re-listen to it. You hear Lisa's suggestions, or simply go to my website, go to the Contact Us form, and ask for the Boundaries workbook, and we will get that to you for free. Always happy to help. gqlaw.com. You can get my book, Living Trust Basics, and let us give you the basic information on living trust. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope this Friday is a good day for you, and that you can celebrate life. Do like Lisa says, and that is, be happy, be healthy, stick to your core values, decide who you are and stick with it. Our guest last week was Kip Harris, and he's incredible. We're giving away his book called Improbable Joy. So if you remember Improbable Joy, you got to remember the name of the book, Improbable Joy. You can do that in the contact form too. Gary, send me the book, Improbable Joy. We need your address on that one because that's a physical hard book. All right. You guys take care. Thank you, my friends. Have a great weekend. This is Gary Quackenbush signing off here on the Word on Wealth. Thank you, Noah.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995 with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help you preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics.
Thanks, Gary.
Advice from a competent lawyer for your individual